Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's live streaming. I appreciate you all, whether you're watching the stream on YouTube, on Rumble, or on Ganjin Word. And I'm smiling because I do 1 hour podcast here, or let's say stream, trying to explain what's happening in different geopolitical conflicts. But our friend Nico, he has a brilliant sense of humor and an excellent linguistic skills to deliver the message in a video under 2 minutes. And I think he has said everything we need to know about these sanctions against Syria, why they were imposed and why they are lifted. But if you are more into the long format videos and streams, then you are in the right place. And I would like to respond to a few comments before I start this stream with you guys. And I have used Google Translation to translate this comment in Greek. And our friend says that just like in any other place, the Greek government doesn't represent the Greek people, and it's a solidarity comment for what the Syrians are basically enduring nowadays. And I just want to say to our friend that at the end of the stream, we are definitely going to address the Greek government condemnation and the diplomatic effort in favor, let's say, of the Christians of Syria. Is it enough? Is it too late? Is it too little? I'm going to try to explain that at the end of the stream, because at the end of the stream, I'm going to show you what the Greek government has done, and especially in the UN with the condemnation and bringing the issue of the attacks against the Christians and especially the Greek Orthodox community in the country. Hello, Sarah. I'm also very happy to be with you today. Today's stream is going to be very interesting. At the beginning, I'm going to explain why Trump has lifted some of the sanctions against the Jolani regime and what are the declared, let's say, reasons and what are the real reasons behind them, of course. And hello to our friend, of course, Dietman, who is trying to manage and moderate the live chat in order for us to create a healthy environment for everyone to express their opinions respectfully and in a civilized manner, regardless whether you agree with me or not. Everybody is welcomed here, guys. You agree or disagree with me, it makes no difference at all. In Arabic, we say, so even if we disagree, our friendship could continue. So this is a podcast here. This is a YouTube channel where we host different people and different people with different backgrounds. And sometimes when I host someone and I see there is a backlash even in the live chat, which is important in my opinion, because I don't want to create an echo chamber on this YouTube channel. This is the pillar on which the Syriana Analysis YouTube channel stands. So the Trump administration and President Trump himself, he signed an executive order to end US sanctions against Syria, which the White House said was a move to support the country's path to stability and peace. Like my heart has itched and I felt the humanity in these words. And I'm sure 100% that the reason Trump himself imposed these sanctions, which pushed the Syrian people, 95% of them below the poverty line, those were all aimed to alleviate the Syrian people's livelihood and bring peace and stability in the past 14 years, because it started as a hot war and then they moved into an economic warfare. So I'm sure Donald Trump had a really good, very good heart, let's say, and he didn't want to harm the Syrian people. But then he saw that these sanctions were harming them, and 90% of them are, 95 actually, below the poverty line. They're unable to even buy a bread or an ounce of meat per month. So he's now going to lift these sanctions because he wants to support the Syrian people's path to stability and peace, guys. And if you don't believe that, if you say that's not the case, then you have to consider yourself an Assadist, and whatever argument you raise here is an Assadist talking point. So That's what the mainstream media tells us nowadays. Don't use your brain, don't use your logic, because we will tell you how to think. And we will tell you here in the mainstream media what is the correct argument and what is not. And when we say this is not the correct argument, then if you use it enough, we will smear you and we will come after you, and we will deplatform you and also close your bank accounts. So this is happening, guys. This is happening in Europe, unfortunately. I have heard and read a few reports of journalists being not only deplatformed, because that's the least, I would say, dangerous thing that could happen to anyone in the 21st century, but they are basically imposing sanctions on journalists for daring to have opinions, and accordingly, they are closing their bank accounts. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the new world order. So imagine under such circumstances, if they push towards complete digitalization and digital currencies, and under such circumstances, imagine the amount of control they would have on ordinary people like us, and pushing against them will be even harder and harder. So the White House said it would monitor the new Syrian government's actions, including, what would you think the first condition would be? If you're going to lift the sanctions against the Jolani regime, which was imposed on the entire Syrian economy, basically. So Jolani came to power. What would be the first consideration, in your opinion, guys, when the White House lifts the sanctions on Syria? Democracy, human rights, respecting the minorities, diversity, elections, parliament, cabinet, stability. None of that. They don't give two F's about all these things. The first thing that the White House spokesperson said, that they're going to follow and monitor the new Syrian government actions, including, quote, taking concrete steps toward normalizing ties with Israel and banning Palestinian terrorist groups. Those are the things that the White House says, that they are going to monitor the new Syrian regime, and they will evaluate these sanctions and lifting the sanctions against Syria based on the Syrian government's performance vis-a-vis Israel, and kicking out the Palestinian terrorist organizations from Syria. Syrian Jolani's foreign minister, Asad al-Shibani, said that this move would lift the obstacle to economic recovery and open the country to international community. Yeah, of course. However, the US maintained sanctions on Assad. I mean, Assad is in Moscow. I don't know what these sanctions are going to do to him anyways. And his associates, as well as the Islamic State group and Iranian proxies. So this is the news, guys, from the BBC. And this is what the White House says about these sanctions. But there are two statements that I have read for Donald Trump recently when he spoke about Syria, basically. And the first statement is very hilarious. He says, the Syrian people are great and led by a strong man, a strong, kind man. Listen. The Syrian people are great and led by a strong, kind man. We lifted sanctions on Syria to give the country a chance to recover. Oh my God, my heart is going to stop. So Syria is apparently, guys, according to Trump, is ruled by a very strong and kind man. Is Assad still alive? Has anyone seen him? I can tell you with great confidence that he's alive and he's in Moscow. So here is your answer for your question. And the second statement that Trump made, he says, the man that is leading Syria was the head of some tough organizations. He is pretty tough. He is a good guy. So Donald J. Trump says that Syria's leader is a kind and a tough and a kind man. He also says that the Syrian leader was the head of some tough organizations. He's pretty tough, he says. He's a good guy. I mean, he wanted to say he's a good boy, like Pet, but I think it would have been a little bit too embarrassing even for Trump's taste to call someone like Jolani, who has been the leader of tough organizations, and those tough organizations were Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Guys, I mean, sorry, I do lots of serious political and geopolitical analysis here, but those are all beyond absurd, right? And not mentioning what type of organizations he used to lead in the past is a misleading statement for the American people. And speaking of the American people, I want to say something very important, and that is there was a huge meltdown in the past 2 weeks in the United States, and especially among the supporters of Donald Trump. And the reason for this meltdown was because a liberal Muslim has become the mayor of, if I'm not mistaken, he has become the mayor of New York, right? Yes. I don't even know his name. I don't want to even memorize his name. He has become the mayor of New York. And there has been more meltdown and criticism and endless podcast hours speaking about the danger of one liberal Muslim becoming the mayor of New York, and comparing that to 9/11. And this guy is literally from the LGBTQ plus minus community. He's a supporter of the transgenderism and queers. His wife is the same. She's unveiled. She is Syrian. And she's very, very, very liberal. Like a typical far liberal. And none of them, and none of these MAGA supporters basically try to address the real issue here, and that is that their president is not only endorsing but also normalizing the leader of the Al-Qaeda offshoot in Syria and accepting him as the president of the country just for the sake of Israel. That's your president, dear American people. And none of them found it really problematic that the president has lifted a $10 million bounty over the head of Jolani and accepted him as the leader of one of the cradles of civilizations. No problem. As long as Israel is served, he doesn't have any problem with it. But those MAGA talking heads who, in a very absurd way, they have compared a victory, electoral victory of a liberal pro-LGBTQ plus, pro-queer, pro-transgenderism liberal Muslim, comparing him to Osama bin Laden. Meanwhile, their president, which they worship because it has become a cult basically in the United States, their president has normalized terrorism in the Middle East. He basically sent a message to tens of millions of people in the region telling them that this is the example we want you to follow. Someone like Jolani. We want you to think that sending car bombs to civilian neighborhoods is the path forward for you to become relevant. They have sent a message to tens of millions of people in the region that if you decapitate enough people and severed heads and cook them If you destroy enough Virgin Mary statues, if you blow up enough churches, if you kill people based on their ethnic and religious background, if you enslave women and take them as sex slaves, and, that's the path forward. That's the message that Donald Trump has sent to tens of millions of people. All these things are irrelevant for them, although this will have a blowback. And Syria is not isolated from the rest of the world. Syria is on the borders with Lebanon, Syria on the borders with Jordan, Syria is on the borders with Iraq, Syria on the borders with Turkey, and Turkey is on the borders with Europe. So if you guys think by creating a terrorist hub in Syria, by normalizing Jolani, is going to be just without any blowback, then we will remind ourselves in a few years from now. Because what happened is that just like in any other country, Syria has lots like radical people. But when you give the radical people weapons and bring them to power, then you have emboldened them and you have encouraged other brainless people to join the ranks of such terrorist organizations. Maybe that's the goal at the end of the day. Maybe they need something like a new 9/11 or planning something like 9/11, a false flag, by radicalizing some brainless people and sending them into some terrorist mission against any, let's say, US assets or interests in the region. And then they would use this as an opportunity to deploy troops, to bomb countries, to occupy sovereign nations, or basically just simply come and bomb from the air. I'm really truly baffled to see how the world operates nowadays. It's a world which I don't want to belong to. You know what I mean? This is a world which I don't want to belong to. This is not the world that I aspire, basically. And Donald Trump has not only lifted the sanctions against Jolani, he also lifted the sanctions against well-known two war criminals. These two warlords, let's call them, because there are other words I wanted to use. So Trump quietly removed US sanctions on two notorious Syrian warlords, Abu Amsha and Saif Abu Bakr. They're accused of abduction, torture, and rape, disproportionately targeting Kurds. No announcement, no transparency, just gone. Their crimes were detailed in August 2023 via an OFAC. This is according, OFAC is the Treasury sanctions, this is the home treasury of the US government. They themselves detailed the crimes committed by these two warlords, citing serious human rights abuses in Afrin, kidnappings, sexual violence, ransom extortion of Kurds and Arabs. These men were sanctioned under the EO 1389-4. And as if that wasn't enough, they were also implicated in the Syria's Khost massacre recently, a few months ago. And the EU Council specifically sanctioned both Abu Amsha and Saif Abu Bakr for playing a central role between March the 7th and March 9, 2025, when nearly 1,500 Alawite civilians were massacred. So, those are the people that the American administration and Donald Trump has lifted sanctions on. What I'm going to show you now, guys, is a video report, an investigation prepared by Reuters, right? And before I show you this video, I have to say that I'm using this video with goodwill and for educational purposes and for the people to know what happened in the country. So I'm not infringing any copyright, and this is for commentary purposes for the people to understand what's going on in the country. Now, I don't agree with every word said in this report, in this investigation, because I believe they are someone working for Reuters cannot be 100% objective. That's impossible. So they mix, as we say in Arabic, honey with poison. دس السم بالعسل. It's okay. But the general, let's say, outcome of this investigation is that the regime forces of Jolani, they are directly responsible for killing and summarily executing hundreds of Alawite civilians, including children and women, right? And I have, this video, of course, includes graphic scenes, which I myself blurred. So I didn't want to really change the content of the video, but I have to blur it for YouTube itself because YouTube doesn't allow me to show such scenes. So take that in mind. So this is the video reportage. I will try to play the video and make some commentaries while we're watching the video, okay? Let's go.
For 3 days in March, Syrian Alawites were killed by the hundreds. We knew we needed to investigate what happened. Many in Syria's new government saw Alawites as deserving revenge for backing Bashar al-Assad's brutal rule.
So this is the first thing, right? I know where is she coming from, the investigator, and she's explaining the mentality, the governing mentality in Damascus, basically. And she says many in Syria's new government, so they call it a government, but the previous one was a regime. They saw Alawites as deserving revenge, and this is true. But what is the reason for it? Is it really because the Alawites supported Bashar al-Assad? Is it really because the Alawites supported the brutality of the Assad rule? Is it really the case? Or that's a smokescreen? Because as far as I remember, the Alawites have been persecuted in the region for hundreds of years. And Bashar has come to power only in the year 2000. And the Alawites, because of the historical persecution against them, organized persecution against them, one of the reasons why they have established their basically homes over the top hills and of the mountains is because under the Ottoman Empire, the Ottomans used to come and hunt them. So they went to the mountains, so it would be more difficult for the Ottoman rule to come after them and kill them. So 400 years of Ottoman rule, and the Alawites were persecuted. Was it the fault of Assad? Have the Alawites for 400 years supported Assad? Or there is a deeper layer in the hatred against the Alawites, and that is based on the ideology and the interpretation of some of the Islamic texts, which says that the Alawites are apostates and the Alawites are Khawarij. They have gone out of Islam. That's the real reason why the Alawites were disproportionately targeted. And throwing this Assad as a flavor over everything to make it more spicy, it's just a smokescreen. When 1.5 million Armenians were massacred in between 1880 to 1915, have they supported Assad? Or there was a deeper layer to it? One of our friends says, Kevork and all others need to know this. The majority of Muslims hate us, the Shiites and Alawites, because we have pledged allegiance to Imam Ali alayhi salam, and his holy progeny. Yeah, that's one of the reasons, right? That's one of the reasons. There is a long history behind it, very long. So taking revenge against the Alawites only for supporting Assad, that's a BS. Do you know who also supported Assad? The Sunnis. Where do you think Assad brought the support to rule the country, Assad the son and Assad the father, for 53 years? Do you really think that they have ruled the country with a minority of Alawites? Or do you believe in the mainstream media propaganda? Because the biggest business circles and the money in Syria was and still is in the hands of the Sunnis. The poorest classes of the society, if you go to Latakia, Tartus, Jable, and you go to the mountains and you see how the Alawites are living there, you will see that they are from the poorest classes in Syria. So how is it that they have benefited from the Assad regime? They are big business figures in Syria, in Aleppo, and in Damascus, and they used to be an ardent supporter of Assad, and they are all Sunnis. But they haven't gone after them and killed them. Why is that? Why is that? Do you understand now, guys? This is complete, in my opinion. It's not objective, let's say, to say that the Alawite support for Assad, was the reason because they came after them. That's BS. When 800 years ago, Ibn Taymiyyah came and said that we have to purify our own domestic home from the Alawites, the Shias, the Druze, there was no Assad back then. There was no Assad. So let's really be careful with our assessment, because these people deserve justice. And when we say revenge for backing Bashar al-Assad, we are giving some legitimacy to the Jolani regime for coming after them and killing them.
Alawites told us they faced collective punishment, like losing jobs, harassment at checkpoints, constant questioning about their religion.
Imagine being asked, "Are you Alawite or Sunni?" My brother said, "Brother, I am Muslim. Be patient."
So you see, they're asking them, are you an Alawite or are you Sunni? They're not asking them if you are pro-Assad or anti-Assad. This has nothing to do with politics, right? So you understand that this is all about sectarian affiliation.
I have lived all my life in Aleppo. The fighter said, "Alawite or Sunni?" My brother said, "I have Alawite roots." Then they began shouting profanities.
Then, after a one-day uprising of pro-Assad forces along Syria's coast, the bloodshed against Alawites began. While many survivors asked to speak in condition of anonymity and refused to let us film or take pictures, a few women came forward. One of them was Samira. She said she saw gunmen execute her two sons and found her husband's body in a pool of blood. Samira said she slept next to their bodies for 3 days until she could bury them.
I saw Majid. I went to pick him up with my hands. His brains came out in my hands. I ran out into the street and started screaming, "Oh people, help me. Help me. Oh people, someone help me carry the bodies. They killed my sons."
After months of investigations in towns and villages along the Syrian coast, what we found was staggering. Around 1,500 people were killed in just 72 hours. Nearly a dozen armed factions were implicated in the massacres. Our investigation found that chain of command in most cases led directly to men who serve alongside Syria's new leaders in Damascus. Here is how we counted the dead. From March 7 to 9, reports poured in of massacres in Alawite neighborhoods and villages. Pictures flooded social media showing trucks filled with bodies, mass graves, vehicles dragging the dead in the streets. We decided to head to the coast from our office in Damascus. Our first try was blocked by local authorities who told us we'd be on our own in dangerous territory. Nearly a week later, we tried again. The trip took us first to Idlib, then Latakia and Tartus. We wanted to speak to survivors and witnesses, count the dead, and figure out who was responsible. The big question, who ordered the killings?
What are the
We
killings?
spoke with community leaders and over 200 families during visits to massacre sites and by phone.
Do you see, guys, the dress code of these people? I just wanted to stop here because I want you to see how the Alawites look like in the coastal side. If you go to any village, town, mountain, you will see the people just like this. If you go to their home, they don't even have a fuel to warm themselves in the winter. They don't have more than 2-3 pairs of clothes. This is how the Alawites live. Do you see any? This is what an ordinary Alawite look like, and they're the ones who paid the biggest price. Do you think that these people are rich people? They have benefited from the Assad regime. Look at these faces. Look at these people. Those are the people who paid the price of Jolani, and those are the people they say that they supported Assad. Like, if these people even wanted to support Assad, they don't even have the material power or any means to support Assad, except for words. You could come and vote for him or something, but how can they support Assad?
Visits to massacre sites and by phone. 40 security officials, fighters, commanders, government-appointed investigators, and mediators. We also reviewed messages from a Telegram chat set up by a Defense Ministry official to coordinate the government response. We examined dozens of videos, obtained CCTV footage, compiled handwritten lists of victims' names, and cross-checked them with families. Some survivors shared maps, walked us virtually through houses and execution sites, including the village of Snowber, where more than 230 people were killed. Many mothers wept, their bodies shook with grief, while recalling watching their children killed before their eyes. They told us fighters prevented them from approaching or providing proper burials, leaving the bodies to decompose. They described it as a double punishment. The hardest challenge was connecting dots. Which faction was responsible for how many deaths and where, given the fact that many of the attackers were masked. Along with videos and photos, accounts from dozens of security sources, along with survivors, help us identify different factions. President Ahmad al-Shara ordered an investigation into the killings. He spoke with Reuters in March.
سوريا نحن أكدنا أنها دولة قانون.
Syria is a state of law, guys. Look at this face. Look at this face. We confirm that Syria is a state of law. But he doesn't say what law. The Al-Qaeda law? The ISIS law? Which law? This is the complete video that I'm showing you, my friend. There is not anything else that I have seen on the Reuters, so I have used the entire video now. And now he's telling Reuters that we confirm that Syria is a state of law with a straight face.
Confirm that Syria is a state of law. The law will take its course on all. We fought to defend the oppressed, and we won't accept that any blood be shed unjustly, or that it go without punishment or accountability, even among those closest to us, or the furthest from us.
Nearly half of the dozen factions that witnesses told us were responsible have been under international sanctions since the civil war for human rights abuse, including killings, kidnappings, and sexual assaults. We found that killings continue to this day.
So, one of our friends says law of the jungle, and I disagree, because in the jungle there are better laws, unspoken laws, and animals do not kill each other for fun, and animals do not ask each other if they belong to religion A or sect B, and they don't enslave each other's women for fun. So, nope. Animals are better, my friend. I don't agree with you. And speaking of enslavement, so this is a new report coming from the not from a pro-Assadist outlet, but rather from the Spectator. This is a British website. And according to this investigation, the Alawite women were taken as sex slaves in Syria. And if you remember a few weeks ago when I covered the case of the kidnappings of Syrian Alawite women on Syriana Analysis, we were a few weeks ahead. And secondly, we were called on this channel that we were spreading Assad regime talking points. Now, even the mainstream media cannot hide this reality. They're taking women as sex slaves, just like ISIS did. The Alawite woman taken as sex slave in Syria. She resisted. He called another man. One of them held her down and the other raped her. She says, I fainted. When I woke up, there were 7 men in the room. They took turns raping me. This is what Syria has become. Worse than a jungle. Please don't compare it to jungle. Don't compare it to jungle, my friend. So, as the United States warming up its relationship with the Jolani regime, with the Al-Qaeda regime in Damascus, what are the main reasons Trump wants to lift these sanctions against Syria? So, this is an article published in the New York Times, and they basically tell us exactly what is at stake. So, I will show you some parts of this article. As the US approach has warmed, the Trump administration has signaled that it has limited interest in how Syria and other countries in the region run their internal affairs. So, what does that mean? They don't care if there is democracy, elections, respect for human rights, minorities, women. Do not care. This is what it means. Here is a breakdown of what Washington has said it wants from Syria and how the new government is responding. 1, peaceful relations with Israel. And they have a good boy here who is very much willing to say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Find and destroy chemical weapons. I would say a BS, because it's been 7 months since the fall of the Assad government, and until today, despite the fact that they have a full control over the entire country, I mean, the Americans, the Brits, the Turks, the Israelis, they have intelligence assets and intelligence personnel every single inch of the country. So where is the chemical weapon stockpile of Syria, if they had any? Question mark, question mark, question mark. And if there was none, then who used these chemical weapons against the civilians? Anyways, managing foreign fighters, they found a solution for it. We give them Syrian passports. They no longer foreign fighters. Voila, it's done. So we make peace with Israel. 2, the chemical weapons do not even exist, so there is no problem. And the third is managing foreign fighters. We give them passports, so there is no longer a problem with them. Remove Palestinian militant groups, which he also said, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and he acted like a good boy, and he already removed the Palestinian groups, militant groups from Syria, so he was a good boy. And find missing Americans, which he did, like a good boy. Prevent an Islamic State resurgence, which means he is going to prevent himself to become Abu Muhammad al-Jolani. So he continues wearing the suit and the tie, and he doesn't become full Al-Qaeda again, like in his very tough past. He was a good guy. He had a tough past. So those are the reasons why. Those are the demands of the U.S. side, basically, and. There is one thing that is very, very important, by the way, and before I tell you this information, which is, I think many other channels haven't mentioned yet, I just want to kindly ask you, as you're watching this stream, if you like this coverage and what I'm doing here to shed light on these injustices in Syria and elsewhere, please hit the like button, leave a comment, share this video with your friends, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Just try to be, a good force so that this content reaches to more people. So I would really appreciate it as you're watching this stream, whether on YouTube, on Rumble, or on Ganjin World, if you hit the thumbs up, like the button. So there is a new news, which is very, very important, by the way, that we have to shed light on. And this is Jolani regime is exploring the import of gas from Israel and agreed to announce that the Shab'a farms, this is the important thing that I'm going to mention because I'm not even shocked at all that they are intending on importing gas from Israel. But this part is the most important part, in my opinion, because the Jolani regime agreed to announce that the Shab'a farms are not Lebanese but Syrian. Why is that? Why is that? What is the Shab'a farms? Let me show you on the map of Shab'a farms. So let's see together. This is it. Now, by watching this, we will understand a few geopolitical facts about this long-term conflict with Israel. We just take out the chat. So let me return this Syrian Analysis logo. Okay, so if you put this map in front of you guys, this is the Golan Heights, right? And this is Lebanon, this is Syria, this is occupied by Israel. So there is this small region inside the Golan Heights called the Shab'a farms. And these Shab'a farms, according to the Israelis, it used to belong to Syria. Now, the Syrians know that this was part of Syria. Under Hafez al-Assad and Bashar al-Assad, they knew that these small Shab'a farms belonged to Syria. However, they have recognized it as part of Lebanon after the year 2000. Now, what happened after the year 2000? In the year 2000, Hezbollah kicked the Israeli occupation forces out of southern Lebanon, forced them to leave. Now, in front of the Lebanese public, the Lebanese government, the international community, Hezbollah has achieved its goal, the liberation of the Lebanese territories. So if there was a resistance against the Israeli occupation forces because Israel used to occupy the entire south of Lebanon and at some point to Beirut, then armed resistance and fighting against the Israeli occupation forces are a legitimate act under international law. But in the year 2000, when Hezbollah kicked the Israeli occupation forces out of Lebanon and there is no longer occupied Lebanese territory, Hezbollah and Syria made a deal under Assad, of course, that Syria will claim in the international forums that this small part in the Golan Heights is actually Lebanese territory, these Shab'a farms. And the reason for it is because Syria wanted to keep Hezbollah's justification to continue having the arms and continue arming itself with missiles, rockets, etc. This is the service Syria under Assad has done to Hezbollah so that Hezbollah can continue operating as a legitimate resistance in the eyes of the Lebanese government, the people, etc. in the region. Now Jolani, because he already surrendered the Golan Heights to Israel, he says that those are Syrian territories. And the reason for it is because he wants to pull the rug under the feet of Hezbollah, so that Hezbollah now will no longer have any legal justification to be a resistance group. So Jolani is working on a multi-layers with the Americans and with the Israelis to hit Hezbollah as well. This is what Jolani is doing, basically. Now that we are finished with the serious, let's say, sanctions and political issues, I'm going to show you a few things happened this week in Syria. And those are the great achievements of the Jolani regime, basically, in the country. Let's start with showing you this statue from the city of Aleppo, where I come from. And this is in the square of Saadallah Jabiri. We call it in Arabic, Sahed Saadallah al-Jabiri. I was in this place a few weeks before the regime change, right? You see this statue? This statue is the statue of the martyrs statue, representing the Syrian martyrs who resisted the French colonialism and gave their lives to liberate their country. And this was torn down last night by the new Jolani regime. So this is how it looked like, and this is how it looks like now. They have destroyed it. They have destroyed it, and they have brought, how to say this, bulldozer or something. You see? And I'm going to show you a few photos just for us to see, I mean, what is the difference between ISIS and the Al-Qaeda regime in Syria? This is the aftermath of the destruction. This is before the destruction. This is after the destruction. It all reminds us of these idiots, basically, who destroyed all the artifacts in their countries. Now, if you ask these Jolani minions and mouthpieces in the internet, they would say this has nothing to do with this being a statue. They did it because there was a screen next to it or behind it or whatever, and the people couldn't see. So they did it for a good purpose. Yeah. Look, we're not idiots, Habibi. And under the Al-Qaeda rule and ideology, everywhere you go, from Afghanistan to Syria to Libya, elsewhere, they have an obsession with statues. And for them, in any country, you cannot have a statue in the city or in the town or anywhere in a public square, not even in a private place, because you only allowed to worship God. And any statue, they consider it a bid'ah. I don't know what's the translation of bid'ah, to be honest, in English. So it is something very important for them ideologically to destroy statues. And this is, again, being sold to the people that it was just for reform issues. And that's a lie. Because when you see this video, again, they published this. The statue of Saadallah Jabri Square in Aleppo, Syria is being destroyed. In this video, the commentator says it represents idolatry and is apostasy, shirk. So this is what I said. That's the real reason.
السلام عليكم. نحن داخل مدينة حلب وتحديدا في ساحة سعد الله الجابري. الآن الأخوة سيزيلون هذه الأصنام الذي.
So you see what they're saying? Those are asnam. And asnam in Arabic, just a second. What is happening here? Asnam in Arabic means idols. So they are destroying idols.
يعني نحتها المشركون منذ عقود عديدة حتى لا يعبد إلا الله في الأرض.
So he says this idol was built by the polytheists. I don't know how do we pronounce that. Polytheists, yes. So this statue was built by the polytheists, and that on this land in Syria, nothing will be worshipped but God.
حتى لا تفتن الناس ولا يعبد إلا الله في الأرض. نعم.
So that's the reason. Another very great achievement for the Jolani regime this week was mind-boggling. To be honest, this is like they are now competing with Switzerland, basically, with the great achievements. And this is, of course, published and promoted by Al Jazeera as some sort of an achievement. So finally, guys, the Syrian security personnel, who all belong to the Al-Qaeda regime, basically, they are allowed to pray in a public square. This is the same public square, by the way, where they destroyed this statue, right? Now they are able to pray, guys, in a public square. Like, aren't you excited about that? Although the mosque is just on the corner. But now we have the right to pray in the public square. Look at us. We are able to pray. And this brutal Assad dictatorship was not allowing us to pray in a public square. Pray in the mosque. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of mosques in Syria. Let's see how many mosques there are in Syria. Wait. How many mosques in Syria? So the number of the mosques in Syria are estimated by 13,500 mosques. We have 13,500 mosques in Syria, but they will pray in the public square. This is, as we say in Arabic, shufuni. Look at me. I'm praying. But I'm not praying for myself. I'm praying so that you see I'm praying in the street. This is a practice of power, you know? I have power over you. You cannot say anything against it. Showing dominance. Exactly. That's the word. Prayer is between God and oneself. If I see 50 Christians praying in public square, I will criticize them because the streets are not a place for prayer. And especially, look, if you're on a highway and traveling somewhere and there was no church or a mosque and you had to pray, you know, like some people want to pray, you can park on the right in the parking and pray, no problem. But when you have the mosque is on the corner and you have thousands of mosques, but you choose to pray in the street, that's a show of dominance. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to subjugate everyone. And when I see such videos from Syria nowadays, I was telling my wife the other day, there are many people who say the Syrian people freed itself, or the Syrian people liberated itself from the Assad dictatorship. And this is now the 7th month after the regime change. And I'm coming to the realization and the conclusion that, is it really the case? Or is it Assad who freed himself from the responsibility of keeping this country united, or at least the bare minimum, to keep the bare minimum? Is it really that the Syrian people liberated themselves from Assad tyranny, or Assad has freed himself from this type of people? It's a tough question. It's a tough question. Like, it feels like Assad was putting his feet on a sewer, you know, on a sewage. And once he left, like, it blew up to our faces. I'm very sad. I'm very sad. They're killing our souls. By watching these videos every day, it's just very much frustrating, and unfortunately, I cannot do anything about it. The other day, yesterday actually, I was in a regional train in Germany. In German, they say Regionalbahn. I was going somewhere, and the moment I came in the train, I sat. I like to listen music all the time, and I put my headphones. And the moment I played the music, a guy was passing through, and he saw me, and I noticed that he's coming to speak with me. So I took off my headphones. Those are the same headphones I use anyways. And he wanted to like give me like a high five like this, you know, like he was excited of seeing me. And he turned out to be a follower of Syriana Analysis. And he told me, aren't you Syrian? He said Syrian Analysis. Yeah, but it's the same, Syriana Analysis. I said yes, and he sat next to me. He introduced me to himself as a long follower of Syriana Analysis. He said he used to follow my works since the first video I posted on Syriana Analysis in 2017. I was really happy to hear his, it's really nice to see people appreciating what you do, to be honest with you. And this guy is from Afghanistan. He speaks fluent English, and we had 5 minutes to speak because my station was only one station. So you go from one place to another, I have to go out, and in 4 minutes I have to leave anyways. So we didn't have a long conversation, but he basically, I'm paraphrasing him, said like, your people haven't learned anything from our experience, huh? And what he meant by that is, we had this same script in Afghanistan in the late 70s and the 80s, and how they radicalized the people and brought the mujahideen from all around the world and destroyed our country. But this has left a permanent scars, you know, it's a permanent change which happened in Afghanistan, that after 20 years of American occupation, they replaced Taliban with Taliban. So this type of changes, when they happen, guys, in a country like Afghanistan or in Syria, it is not easy to reverse this, whatever you want to call it. Once enough people are indoctrinated, radicalized, this will become the new norm. So people aren't born with a set of religious or cultural or sectarian values. You indoctrinate people after they are born. That's why we have different people all around the world. And if you indoctrinate and program for a long time enough people, the country changes. And this is the problem with Syria and Afghanistan. This is what we have discussed basically, that this change in Syria is going to be long-term and probably permanent. And that's the sad part. This is what this was basically his statement. And to be honest, this sentence has been echoing in my head ever since, because he's correct. And he is definitely not a Taliban supporter, and he's not an Islamist or a Takfiri. He looked very decent person, very like his way of talking and expressing, like, you know, that this guy can connect the dots, and he's been seeing the bigger picture, and he doesn't like what happened to Afghanistan, and he never wanted for Syria to see the same thing. This is what I want to say about this. Finally, guys, the Greek ambassador in the UN, he gave remarks to, or he submitted some remarks, basically, at the UN Security Council following a closed consultations of the Council requested by Greece. So Greece requested a closed session. And this was after the terrorist attack, which killed over 30 worshippers in Damascus, in San Elias Church. And basically, I will not show you the entire video. I will just play the video for the sake of, we having some content here. But basically, the Greek ambassador, he spoke in front of the UN following a closed-door session of the UN Security Council, convened at Greece's initiative, of course. Greece's permanent representative to the UN ambassador, Evangelos Sekeris, denounced the attack as heinous and cowardly. He said, "We express our sincere condolences to the families affected by this cowardly attack. This was not just an assault on one religious community, but an attack on all Syrians and on their path toward reconciliation and recovery." The ambassador said that he stressed the importance of safeguarding Syria's religious and cultural diversity, calling it essential for lasting peace. He said, quote, "The full protection and inclusion of all religious and ethnic communities in Syria is key to its long-term stability." He also emphasized that the historical role of Christians in the region, describing them as an integral part of the region, contributing to its prosperity and enhancing diversity. Now, some people, of course, like the member of the European Parliament, like Nicolas Farantouris, he launched an initiative to protect Christian minorities persecuted in Syria following this rise of Jolani's Islamists, right? And this recent terrorist attack on Damascus, which killed 30 people, highlighted the dire situation. Now, according to Newsbomb, Syriza MEP Nicolas Farantouris and Rafael Isa, a Greek Orthodox Christian of Syrian descent and founder of the Helleno-Levantines Union, will hold a meeting in Athens this September. The meeting will include representatives of Syrian Christian diaspora from the US and Europe, focusing and exploring initiatives to safeguard the Christian minority in their ancestral homeland. Now, I'm going to ask the question, is this what the Christians need, especially the Greek Orthodox community in Syria? Is this what they need? A UN Security Council meeting, statements, speeches, podiums, on other meetings, on other conferences, on other... 14 years. For 14 years, 90%. For 14 years, 90% of Christians already fled. So I don't understand really what's this issue with preserving the diversity of Syria by keeping them hostages in the hands of the Jolani regime. For 14 years, they have opened their borders in Europe for refugees, migrants from all around the world. And they said this is for humanitarian reasons. And if you said anything different, that yes, humanitarian factor is one reason, but you have other reasons, you're a fascist, right? Okay. So if the main consideration, the direct consideration was and still humanitarian, then why most of the European countries now close their doors to refugees coming from Syria? Like, if a Christian Greek Orthodox person now arrives to Greece, will he get a protection, even temporary, until things get better in Syria? No. So why is it back then, when it was the trend, received hundreds of thousands of refugees, and I'm not saying anything against it, why is it now, when the Christians and the Alawites of Syria need protection, they don't get a refugee or an asylum or second subsidiary protection? Why is that the case? Don't you think they deserve protection? And I'm not saying that that's the only solution, but why not? Why not? So I truly appreciate that the Greek government is raising this issue. However, it's not enough. And I think what Turkey is doing in the region is calculated, deliberate. It's a conscious decision to empty Syria from its Christians. And Greece stands as a beacon of or a protector of these Christian communities. But if Turkey is actively funding, arming, equipping, intelligence support, drone, everything to the Giuliani regime, then what Greece is doing basically through these diplomatic efforts is not going to counter the damage Turkey is doing to Syria. That's the point from this. Finally, I will just show you last video, guys. This is, let me check again. This is the Greek Orthodox parish of St. Ignatius of Antioch in Brussels community gathered to stand in prayer and solidarity for the victims of the church bombing in Syria as part of the Antiochian Orthodox Church, whose roots are deeply tied to the land of Syria. I will show you the video. في قبر فتعجب جنود الملائكة الذين مجدوا تنازلا طوبى للأسقياء الفقراء للسائرين في شريعة الرب. So this was all for today, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's stream. I appreciate you all. Before leaving, I would be very grateful if you could hit the like button, subscribe to this YouTube channel. And if you like to do more and support the independent work I'm doing from my basically home, you can become a patron. Patreon.com/Syriana Analysis. The link is scrolling on the screen. If you don't like to use Patreon, there are different means in the description below. And I will see you tomorrow on Friday, 5 p.m. Central European Time, 11 a.m. Eastern American Time. Peace be upon you and upon your families. And thank you so much, my friend Dietman, for moderating the chat. Salam, guys.